Okay, I did a damn fool thing last night. That's what this one is called. I did a damn fool thing last night. I got on a public debate phone call with a free will preacher. Can you believe it? I believe he was the spawn of the free will chick that I used to argue with. Chatting with either one proves to be less than pleasant. Here's what I learned. Number one, God locks up altogether in stubbornness. Romans 11:32, and this guy is stubborn. I know I'm stubborn. And just so you'll know, one time when I was chatting with the free will chick, I told her, you know how the charismatics say, God told me this and God told me that, like they've got some inside deal with with God, and this they call it prophecy and the gift of what, the word of the Spirit, or I don't know what they're. Anyway, so they've got this thing where they say God told me this. So I told the free will chick one time, God told me that you were stubborn. And of course, I'm basing it on Romans 11:32. And you know what? The free will chick said, I am not stubborn. I surrendered myself to God. I gave my heart to Jesus. Do you hear that? She starts out her arguments with the word I. I did this and I did that. This is the whole deal with the free will teaching, okay? Anyway, so number one, God locks up altogether in stubbornness, and this free will preacher was definitely stubborn. Number two, talking to free will preachers will remind you of why you left Christianity to start with. Isn't that great? I certainly was reminded of why I left Christianity by talking to him. Good golly, Miss Molly. Number three, free will teaching glorifies man, not God. Free will teaching glorifies man, not God. Number four, free will teaching relies on turning left when you should be turning right. In other words, you can't pin them down on an argument. They're real slippery. They change the subject. That's what I learned. Anyway, number five, it took me some 5 years to unlearn all that evangelical fundamentalist tripe. And you got to unlearn it in order to see what God actually is saying in the scriptures. Because if you put on the fundamentalist evangelical glasses, you're going to go to the scriptures and use it like a Ouija board and find all kinds of false teachings in the Bible, because you're just picking and choosing, and you don't have an understanding of what's going on in the Bible. And here's the three ways to understand the scriptures. Number one, rightly divide the word of truth, and that means there's a difference between the gospel of the circumcision and the gospel of the uncircumcision, right? So separate the two, rightly divide the word of truth. Number two, have a pattern of sound words. That's what Paul says, have a pattern of sound words. So that would at least mean get rid of all the words and the lingo that are not in the Bible. They're not a pattern of sound words. And if you do that, man, a whole new light and understanding comes to you about God and his purpose and plan and his glory. And let's see, there's a third one. Oh, distinguish the things that differ. Distinguish the things that differ. These are three different teachings that Paul specifically says. Rightly divide the word of truth, have a pattern of sound words, and distinguish the things that differ. And let's go on to my next note here. Where am I? It took me 5 years to unlearn all that evangelical tripe. Unlearn it, and it took a lot of effort to unlearn that crap. And it's not going to happen with the free will preacher that I was talking to. He's not going to unlearn his crap overnight anyway. Number six, arguing that man's will is free of influence, causality, and free of force or control is to say that God is not God. Number seven, you can either believe in the deity of God or the free will of man, but you cannot believe both. Okay, turn the page here. Number 8, the free will preacher won the debate last night, but he did not glorify God. He won the debate because he was real slippery and he wouldn't stick to a topic. He wanted to pull everything out of his back pocket or out of his butt to keep the discussion very confused. So I will admit he won the debate, but he did not glorify God. He glorified man's itty bitty free will. Number 9, you can't glorify God while holding up man's will as the highest, uh, most sacred thing ever created. You can't glorify God while holding up man's will as the highest, most sacred thing ever created. Number 9, it's been many years since I have debated with one of these guys, and last night it all came back to me as to why you should give them a wide berth. Number 10, free willers are self-righteous, pride-filled, and quite sure that they deserve God's undeserved favor. They deserve God's unearned, undeserved favor. And number 11, their doctrine is the stuff of 12-year-olds and not one day more mature. Their doctrine is the stuff of 12-year-olds. In other words, they haven't thought it out very well. And a 12-year-old can invent a theology where, God is mad. An immature God creates a little world, and then the little world goes wrong and he gets mad and smashes it all. That sounds like Greek mythology where God is less than perfect and gets pissed that his creation is less than perfect. Number 12, don't blame God for endless hell. The sinner had a free will and can only blame himself. And my argument is, if the sinner can only blame himself for going to hell, then the Christian can only praise himself for going to heaven. And you can't have it any other way. And number 13, don't buy it. God is God and is worthy of your trust. We must trust God about these great things because we certainly do not have very much power, apparently, in our life. Because we don't even choose our hair color, our eye color, our nationality, our parents. The Mormons here where I live, they believe that you chose your parents. And I say, well, if you chose your parents because you existed before you existed, if you chose your parents, then your parents did not choose each other. So that kind of destroys free will right there. And you definitely didn't choose your grandparents. It becomes a mathematical nightmare to try and put your theology together. Anyway, God is God and is worthy of our trust because we are his creatures. All the experiences we have are barely, we can barely say that we have control over them, So we didn't choose our nationality. We didn't choose the century in which we're born. We didn't choose our relatives. Man, and that's a big influential factor in how you come along. Your relatives are very influential, and free will kind of teaches that there are no influential factors. That you're on your own, baby. And number 14, free willers only trust in their trust. Free willers trust in their trust because they're sure that their free will choice and trusting of God is what saves them. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that little rant. Thanks for listening, and grace to you. So you get a double treat today. I'm putting up 2 of them because the guy, the free will preacher, annoyed me such that you get 2 lessons from me. If they're lessons, they're just ranting. Sorry. Okay, grace to you, and have a good day.